Hello people, my name is Venok, and I hope you all are doing grand today. I'd just like to apologize in advance that I might have caught the flu, a cold, something, and my voice could be a little bit phlegmy. It might sound a little bit different than before, but rest assured, I hope all is fine. Since I like tier lists that much, I just figured, you know what, why not do one with my channel specialty, that being System Shock 2. Now, before going into my next playthrough, my next Psi-only playthrough, I figured I'd just look over some tier lists, and if there aren't any weapon tier lists for System Shock, I'd make one, but I guess courtesy to Mike Waz here, he's already went out there, he has Googled the Wikipedia of System Shock, and he dragged some images in there, and he made his own tier list. Shout out to you, man. You know, a little bit of a shocking title you put there. Overall, I'd say I'd like to make my own and make my own take here on the weapons. Now, background info, even though I've only done a Navy hacking playthrough, and I've only been limited to a bunch of weapons because that is just the nature of this game, guys. There's just some weapons that are totally unbalanced. I wouldn't exactly call System Shock 2 a balanced game. And there are obviously objective truths into what the best way to finish the game is, which is what I've showed previously on my last playthrough of Navy. But there are also some really fun, albeit gimmicky weapons that you can go through the game with. They just wouldn't be as good as what I'm about to put on the S tier over here. So I guess without further ado, I'd like to call this one my subjective tier list. Clearly, I'm not the best System Shock 2 player out there, not even by a long shot. I didn't even start speedrunning it. One thing I can say for sure, though, is I did finish the game using all the weapons at least once. I'm looking at you here, buddy. Before I finish it and save it, and possibly publish it, I'm just gonna change the tiers and add my own little spin on it. I think S rank I'll just call King tier. Always worth it. This is for the weapons that, albeit they would cost a lot and the investment will be felt on impossible difficulty depending on which one you'd play. I suppose you can put these on a tier that even if they'd cost you to max out a weapon skill, like let's say bring it up to 6, it would be absolutely worth it. Like it would just melt through all the enemies, right? Just from this description, you could probably tell it's a foreshadowing for what I'm about to bring up here. Nevertheless, let's continue. A tier. These are for weapons that I would say they could carry you through the game, albeit not as flawlessly and as effortlessly as you using the S tier, but great weapons all around. The B tier. You could get through the game, but not as comfortably. C tier. I wouldn't even say why would you use these, but they're kind of borderline garbage. D tier. Why would you use this, man? Now that out of the way, the order in which it's put over here, I don't know if it's automatic, but before I place any of them, obviously there are some missing here, at least. I think, actually no, I think there's only one missing. I'll get to it later when I get to it. The standards for which I rank them, obviously subjective in which way I felt they were satisfying to use. Aesthetic, in which way I'd say they dealt enough damage, and the efficiency at which they deal damage. Whichever ammunition is spread out throughout the whole game, how much ammunition you get for these weapons. Overall, how applicable they are in every scenario against every enemy. I guess the return value, that being just how good the weapon is, considering how many cyber modules you'll have to put into a skill to use it. Either you'll put cyber modules into statistics, physical attributes, or however many cyber modules you'll invest into the weapon skill itself for the sort of weapon that belongs to that category. Right off the bat, I am an automatic weapon enthusiast. I'm an automatic weapon enjoyer. Pretty sure this goes without saying. About 90% of players will agree with me. The assault rifle is absolute godsend. I don't know what the devs were thinking when it came to balancing everything, but the idea of giving you this weapon that could alternate from semi into full auto, albeit you shouldn't use that because this game is very scarce on resources. Even if you do play impossible difficulty, I doubt anybody would disagree with me when I say this weapon can outdamage absolutely anything. It can shred through mechanical enemies via AP rounds. It can shred via universally everything with standard rounds. And if you just get late game where almost all of the enemies are fleshy, they can kiss their ass goodbye, as this thing can melt even rumblers in just 1 second on full auto. Just bar none, this is probably the most objective placement I could make on this tier list. Absolute enemy melter. Assault rifle deserves S tier. Despite it being arguably one of the weapons that required the most investment, with you needing to put 6 points into standard. Just standard weapons are all around in their name. They can be used to pretty much kill everything. You can get rounds for every sort of enemy. Unlike energy and exotic, standard weapons can pretty much carry you through the whole game. They do not excel at killing a certain enemy. You know, this thing can pretty much just negate any sort of advantage you'd get from using exotic or energy, I guess. I'm not gonna go all neckbeardy at you and tell you what the damage numbers are. Just know that if you put the sharpshooter OS upgrade and you combine it with this thing, guarantee you could probably just murder a rumbler in 3 to 4 shots maximum. Another weapon that could have been put in the S tier, the Crystal Shard. Probably one of the most unique melee weapons I've seen in the game. Already bumping it up to a tier above C, because the thing that's saving it from being C is the fact that this thing does absurd amount of damage. This is probably, you know, if you exclude the Psi Amp melee weapon, I think this thing does the most damage out of any game. You could tell me, oh, but anybody could use the wrench and you could finish the whole game with it. Yes, indeed, but this thing outdamages the wrench to a whole other level. If you get the OS upgrade that just improves damage and you combine it with the Smasher OS upgrade by holding down the weapon, I think the wiki already tells you that this thing can reach ridiculous amounts of damage. Almost to the point where, albeit it's not as safe as the assault rifle, this thing can pretty much carry you through the whole game. So then, why wouldn't I put it on S tier? Well, not to completely just take a huge dump on this weapon, but I think its biggest drawback, albeit it's not as big as an investment on statistics as the assault rifle. I'm sure this only requires like a few, I think like 3 to 4 points into research and then a little bit into exotic. No way you have to go all into exotic, so that's the good part. The bad part is you'll have to invest into more than just 1 point of research, which is already a huge demand because you're just getting the skill for this weapon. There's no other reason to get research otherwise. Already you're looking at a bigger investment than this if you combine both of the skills together that you need to get it. But its biggest drawback, and I wish they hadn't done this, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I don't think it can deal damage to the final boss. No spoilers, but if you play this game, you know who the final boss is. I don't think this thing can deal damage to it. So that would automatically mean you have to keep a wrench on handy if you're doing melee runs. Otherwise, this thing is a beast. It can melt even mechanical enemies, which, by the way, it is weak to. It is a percentage base, so it does 0.5x amounts of damage. So then let's say if this thing can go to 27 damage, it would be doing 14, 13, or 14, depending. Either way, this thing can melt. I don't know. I'm kind of debating on whether I should put it A or B. I'm just going to put it A for now. I might change my mind later. Who knows? I'm pretty sure this is the dual circuit EMP rifle. It's the energy weapon. The ranged rifle for energy weapon users. I'm not sure if this thing does any damage to the pre-final boss. Does it deal damage to the pre-final boss? No, it does not. Yikes. Yeah, that's as I feared. So This thing cannot deal damage to the pre-final boss. I'm not sure about the other energy weapons though, but I'm just ranking this thing right here. Is it actually better in terms of investment than a laser pistol? I kind of doubt it, but I don't know. I'm gonna get flack for this. I did use the EMP rifle. It did feel cool for a little bit. It feels good. There's a lot of annoyances out there. There's big robots. There's ninja robots. There's cyber ninja robots, which are actually the same thing. I don't know why I said it twice. They're quite fun to kill with it. It's nice. I like this weapon. Unfortunately, for meta purposes, I just think it's a weapon to use for fun. If I want to be completely real with you, you can totally finish this game without it. I can see people using it because of its coolness factor, but right now it's just gonna stay in C, where it belongs. I'm pretty sure you can kill mechanical robots even easier with AP weapons on an assault rifle anyway, so yeesh. Sorry, man. You needed a better buff. Fusion cannon. Now, where would I put the fusion cannon? All right. Why would you use this? Now, I know it's cool. It's the BFG of System Shock 2. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, this weapon never sat well with me. The amount of investment you have to put into it just to realize that it uses one of the most scarce ammo in the game, those being prisms. This thing does use prisms, combined with the fact that it already gets out-damaged by the grenade launcher. And the fact that you need strength and I think you need maximum in heavy weapons. I'm telling you, there is no implant that could bolster your heavy weapons. There's no reason for you to get to heavy weapon 6. And if you do get to heavy weapon 6, this thing will outdamage it anyways. So, plus the projectiles are slow. You know, I guess it does AoE, but grenade launcher does AoE too. It just needed something. It needed a little special touch by the developers. This weapon just needed more love. As it stands, I find no reason to use this thing. I'm sad, because it's a really cool weapon by design. It's literally the BFG, but it can kill you just as easily as it could kill your enemies. Sad days. Speaking of a heavy weapon that needs some loving, I'm pretty sure the developers ignored this. This is the bastardized child of the family. And this is the child that receives eggs on toast every morning. I'm not sure if I should put this in S tier, but S tier is kind of reserved for the best weapons out there. Reasons why you should use the grenade launcher. 1, it's low investment. Literally, if you want, you can just get enough heavy weapon skills to use it. And it's still gonna carry you through the whole game. You don't even need heavy weapon 6 for this thing to be good. You could argue System Shock 2 is a resource management game. Every weapon needs ammo. And every time you get ammo, you can either convert it into nanites to use it to buy other sorts of ammo for another weapon at a replicator. If you get a certain ammunition for a certain weapon, you're going to always want to use it. This is one of those moments where getting the grenade launcher is actually one of the best investments behind the assault rifle that you can make in this game. You will find grenades. Every grenade in this game is useful, and albeit I thought I could throw the grenades, you will need the grenade launcher. I actually, in my last playthrough, I felt sad because I didn't invest in grenade launcher, and I kind of felt it. My heart broke in half. This thing is amazing. I don't... is it S tier though? Because like, I guess the ultimate combo would be the grenade launcher and the assault rifle together. I guess I'm just gonna put it here. Let's say it's weaker than the assault rifle, but it's still really good. Just get this weapon on you. Energy pistol. Already, I think it's better than the EMP. You don't require as much investment. It does the job early game. The job being getting you through engineering. If you're able to get it that early. I guess you spawn with one when you start the game. This thing is amazing, actually. For the beginning. Engineering is full of turrets, it's full of robots, it's full of explodobots. This thing can completely negate any sort of fear you might have. Early game, deck 1, deck 2. A lot of people like to complain about the spike in difficulty that is deck 1. Yeah, deck 1 is engineering. I completely agree with them. It's utterly difficult unless you don't have any hacking abilities. You might as well just quit when you get to deck 1 because they just throw so much at you. They throw all of the enemies and the kitchen sink at you. And all of the enemies that are annoying, this thing is the answer to. Unfortunately, this thing can kill worms, but anything above worms, it's just terrible. It's gonna feel like you're just throwing a bunch of garbage at them. If you're gonna use it to kill mechs, make sure you put this thing on overcharge and make sure you keep it stocked up, because this won't disappoint you. This is gonna be the most handy weapon you're gonna have early game. Very dependable. Although it does weak damage, if you put it on overload, it's still gonna do the job it's meant to. And, best part, you don't have to invest that heavily into energy weapons. Speaking of, here is a reason to invest into energy weapons. Now, I'd argue I would place it a little bit higher than the energy pistol. Coolness factor, duh. I mean, who doesn't want to be a cyberpunk Jedi? And to all the enthusiasts and System Shock 1 players who just used to play System Shock, they're just gonna cream the moment they see this weapon. Nah, Here comes the RPG mechanics, baby, here to stop you at the fact that you will need energy points and energy weapons and agility. But is it worth the investment? Heck yeah, this weapon is cool as shit. It automatically does really good damage. Albeit not as good as the Crystal Shard, this weapon is still really, really, really good. It sounds amazing. It looks awesome. Not to mention, there's nothing more satisfying than just using this weapon on a bunch of cyber ninjas. There's actually not a lot of mech enemies that are safe to be taken out at melee range, which takes this melee weapon a bit down. The pistol. I think it's a good weapon all around to have. I don't feel okay putting... You know what? I'm gonna put it here. Why not? Yeah, I'm putting the Crystal Shard on S tier. The pistol is a great weapon to use all around. Only problem is, obviously it still degrades. One thing it is good for is it can switch ammo. It can go, unlike the energy pistol, it could go through from being able to just take out mechs, turrets, and robots, all the way up to just killing hybrids and annelids. This thing is a great all-arounder. I think many people would agree if I put it in A tier. Obviously, it gets outclassed by its big brother, but it's just not that big of an investment, really. You're gonna be using this gun up until you get the assault rifle, and after that, it's just served its purpose. You're gonna be throwing it away, but until you get to that point, this weapon is great. I love using the pistol. Psi-Amp. Where would I put the Psi-Amp? Alright, absolute King S tier. Should I put it after the assault rifle? I think it's got the potential to beat the assault rifle. There's so many ridiculous disciplines that comes with the Psi-Amp that are tied to the Psi-Amp that it would just warrant me making a separate video for it. So, yeah, Psi-Amp, utterly useless spells, or I guess disciplines rather, utterly broken as well. But those that are broken completely warrant putting it on the king tier. Stasis Field Generator. Yeah, that's a weapon, I guess. I wouldn't even call this thing a weapon. You know, I think it's completely fair that he made this tier just for this. It's not that I don't remember the weapon. I completely remember it. It's just that the point at which you get it. Why do prism weapons suck, man? I don't know. I'm torn on this. I've literally only used it once. But, you know, unlike the fusion cannon, which is literally a weaker version than this thing, you could argue the fusion cannon is better than the stasis field. But, I mean, I'd rather use the prisms for something that doesn't do damage, because I already have the grenade launcher to do damage. And again, gonna get a lot of flack for this. Please do leave a comment telling me why my opinion is absolute garbage. I do think it's a better tool, I guess. I wouldn't call this a weapon. It's a better tool than this weapon. And I'm gonna tell you why. This thing can immobilize enemies. It is exceptional for Cyber Ninja. Their mobility is absolutely their strongest asset. This just completely negates it. Another thing that completely gets negated by the stasis field, I would argue, are spiders. I actually like using this thing against spiders. Spiders are a pain in the ass to deal with. They leap, their hitboxes are inconsistent. Just for those two enemies alone, I guess this weapon is good. It's also really good for pacifist runs, although I don't think you can beat the game without cracking a few skulls, at least twice. If you know, you know. But if you're trying to be as much of a pacifist as you can, this weapon is, I guess, the only way you can finish the game that way. You can do your Gandhi run with the stasis field generator. And hey, who am I to judge you? Have fun in the way you want to have fun, you know? Already I'm finding more uses for the stasis field generator. This thing actually has a purpose that is its own, unlike this thing getting beat at everything it's trying to achieve by this other heavy weapon. Plus, you don't need a maximum heavy weapons to use this, so already you get why I'm putting it here. In fact, I still feel kind of bad putting it. You know, I'm just gonna bump the EMP Rifle because I don't feel okay putting it at the same tier as the stasis field, but it's certainly not as good as these two over here. So yeah, shotgun. Yeah, I don't think I should go into much detail as to why I'm placing it here, but it's sort of butting heads with the energy pistol. Why is it butting heads with the energy pistol? The shotgun, I literally use it to expel my resource that is shotgun ammo on hybrids, I guess, and other fleshy enemies out there. I do keep it for that sometimes. Its damage is actually surprisingly negligible. I wish the shotgun would have done more damage than it actually does. I really wish that, and if it did, I could have probably bumped it up to an A tier. But as it stands, this weapon is kind of weak. I use it whenever I don't feel like wasting my AP on exploding robots, and also if I don't have energy weapons. The shotgun could have been so much better. If only it dealt more damage. It could have been higher, but as it stands, just use it as a filler weapon. Yeah, no, this is the viral proliferator. I actually had to Google it because I don't know the difference between these two, and I'll go into detail why. The viral proliferator, as far as I'm aware, is the second tier after the crystal shard when it comes to exotic weapons. Now, why would you use this gun? Unless you're doing an exotic only playthrough, I wouldn't find any reason to use this gun. This gun uses extremely scarce ammunition. You're gonna need both a bunch of glass jars. Like, you're gonna need to hoard all of the glass jars that you find in order to use it on worms. Like, you just get the glass jar, you drag it into the pile of worms, and there you go. You've made ammunition for your gun. I would argue, albeit I could be wrong on this one, I think this is one of the most scarce ammunition in the entire game. I think. Because of that, it's already bringing it down a little bit. Thankfully, what this weapon has going for it, unlike the prism weapons here, it actually does really good damage late game. So if you do keep a bunch of your worms inside the glass jars, you're gonna deal exorbitant amount of damage to annelids and half annelids, that being rumblers, worms, spiders. Already, all of these enemies that I'm listing off have a little bit of an unnatural amount of health, might I say. Spiders especially are super tanky. Rumblers are super dangerous and tanky and fast. Psi Reavers. This thing completely demolishes Psi Reavers. It's got a purpose. It's not that big of an investment. And for that, I wouldn't say it's an all-around great weapon. And it's certainly not as cool as the lightsaber, but I do like it. Aesthetically, I do like the idea of it. It's only that, you gotta hold it down, and then after you release the button, that's where it explodes. It can switch between anti-human to anti-annelid. A really fun gun. I like it. It's unique. It is niche. It's in the title. It is an exotic weapon. Now, the Annelid Launcher, however, the Annelid Launcher is just a homing viral proliferator that you get really endgame, uses the same amount of ammo, does even more damage than the viral proliferator, I think. Honestly, the middleman is not going to be able to afford going for exotics. It is one of the biggest investments in the whole freaking game, bar none. This surpasses the assault rifle, this surpasses the viral proliferator, this surpasses even the fusion cannon in terms of how much you have to invest to get this. This is literally the last weapon you get, and it mirrors that. You have to put 6 into exotic, you have to put a lot in research, which is useless. Again, research is useless unless you want to use this thing. I don't think it warrants being put over the viral proliferator though. Pitchforks and torches come my way, but hey, that is my opinion. I think the viral proliferator is a much better looking gun, and it feels much better to use as well. Sure, it can kill the pre-final boss really easily, and then the BOTM is gonna be a breeze to go through. It's literally the same with the viral, and you know, you don't have to waste your whole life savings on it, so you know, again, we'll love to hear your thoughts on it. Now the wrench, I'm gonna receive a lot of flack for this, aren't I? Yeah, I'm gonna receive a lot of flack for this one. Man, I should, it seems like B tier is getting really flooded here. The wrench is good. You can finish the game with the wrench. Anybody could use a wrench. An infant that is 30 seconds old coming out of his mother's womb can use the wrench. Anybody could use the wrench. You can finish the game with the wrench. It doesn't have any bonuses against anyone. It has very, very ultra serviceable damage. The lowest damage a melee weapon can have. One thing it has going for it, however, is its applicability. You can do a wrench-only playthrough in this game. I think. Don't count on it, though. I'm not sure how you're gonna deal with the pre-final boss melee only just by using a wrench. But, you know, you could damage mostly everything technically with a wrench. You could buff it up with strength, albeit yes, it does stack with strength. Same with the 2 OS upgrades, but I still think the laser weapon is better. It overall has better damage. Anything that you're gonna be killing with the wrench, you can kill just as good with the laser weapon. Laser weapon can kill worms, the laser weapon can kill big fleshy enemies, and it has more range. Objectively, I think I like the laser weapon better, but yeah, wrench good. Wrench nice, you know, kill that one kid just awkwardly giving a thumbs up. So anyways, yeah, that was the tier list, I think. Let me see if I'd like to make a few changes here and there. I would probably bump the laser rapier up a tier because I really do like it. Bias, laser rapier gang, rise up. I'm very comfortable saying this is it, I think. Yep, I'm very satisfied with this tier list. Okay, so if you guys have any differing opinion, if you think some of my opinions are garbage and I could probably change my mind on a few things statistically, maybe I've overlooked the brilliance of a weapon, maybe I didn't use it too much, I would actually love to hear your take on this. Probably defend the stasis field or the fusion cannon. I'd love to hear that. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Would love to hear your comments. I guess like if you liked the video, dislike if you didn't. Hope you enjoyed my takes on the weapons. I hope this has been, if a little bit educational to you, as to which way you should play the game, or at least which weapons are kind of better than each other and which weapons you'd like to try out. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope it was educational for you. And take care. See you next time.